Do you ever find yourself in the point of just being completely overwhelmed by your workload to the point that you can't get anything done and the pile is getting bigger and bigger? Hi, I'm Dr. Leanne Davey, and this is all the more common these days to get stressed from an overwhelming workload. Well, unfortunately, there's no one perfect strategy that works for everyone. Based on our personalities, we have different versions of what overwhelmed looks like and different strategies that provide the antidote and get us moving again. I'd like to share some of those with you. So let's start with 4 different versions of what stress can look like. And I'm going to give you for each of them what's the antidote. And then we'll talk about a few bonus strategies that you can call on as kind of a secondary approach based on the kinds of things that energize you. Okay, number 1, you might be the kind of person who, when you're overwhelmed, it looks like frenzy. Think Tasmanian devil, just running around doing so many things, opening new emails, starting new tabs, getting distracted by something on your desk. Overwhelm for you doesn't look like, ugh. It actually looks very busy and very active. Well, here's the thing. You're probably doing a lot of things, but not getting many things done. So the secret, if your version of overwhelm is frenzy, is to plant yourself for a moment and work on a list. People who go in the frenzy mode really do well with a to-do list and things they can check off. So you want to, as fast as you can make it a game, which might be helpful, jot down everything you're thinking of that's feeling overwhelming, all of the tasks you have to do, and then put those in order. Pick what are the 10% of that list that's really important and really need to be done, and then start working through them. You'll find that sort of activity-based management of stress is going to be more useful for you than the people who are like, you should just meditate for 10 minutes. Probably when you hear about people recommending that you meditate, if you're the frenzy type, you think that is the worst thing I could do because you can't quiet your noisy brain. Okay, the next version of stress, it looks totally different than that. You might be someone who, when you're overwhelmed, you become very rigid. You start thinking about, well, it shouldn't be like this, and I shouldn't have to do this, and he shouldn't have done it this way. And what I refer to is you start shoulding all over everybody. And when you start using the word should and get that rigid form of overwhelm, well, you know that you're in trouble. And it's going to leave you stuck. So the secret of the antidote for you, completely different from the person who's more frenzied in stress. The secret for you is to actually shift from using the word should to using the word could. So I know it shouldn't be that way, but what could you do in this situation that would make it one notch better? What could you do that would prevent this sort of thing in the future? So just shifting in your head, if you catch yourself going to should, say, okay, but what could I do? Even if I shouldn't have to, even if it's not how things ideally should be, or you want them to ever be this way again, what could you do to make things a little bit better? Could is going to be a much more useful word for you than should. Okay, number 3, again, a completely different type of person. Some people, when they're overwhelmed, become very social. They, want to talk to everybody in sight. They want to compare. So they want to say, well, how much do you have? I have more. My life is harder than yours. And you may find that when you get overwhelmed, you start looking at everyone else and trying to see, where do you fit in? Do you have it worse than everybody else? It becomes a comparison game. And that comparison game gets really focused on the negative, like I have way more, I had to stay at the office later, all of those sorts of things. So it's really important, if that's what's going on for you, to, comparison is just natural for you. So we're not trying to get away from comparison, but we're going to try and switch to using the comparison to help you. So how do you get into a little bit more of a healthy competition around, okay, who's getting more things checked off their list, or those sorts of things? And do reach out and use those social connections to switch you from complaining about how bad you've got it to complaining about how fast you're making progress and checking things off your list. Okay, the final version of overwhelm and stress, and this is probably the one that's most true of me, looks different again. And that's somebody who gets very deflated when they get overwhelmed. They become very pessimistic. They think, I'll never be able to get through all of this. Or even it becomes a self-inflicted wound where they start to think about, well, I'm not worthy. I can't keep up with this. This is about me. And that's a really devastating form of being overwhelmed. So in this case, what's happened is people who are prone to deflation when they're overwhelmed are people who are very much about inertia. So these folks, when the inertia is with them, they are moving, they are getting so much done. But unfortunately, when the inertia changes, when the momentum changes, they slow right down and it's hard to get started again. So what you want to do in this case is find, the thing that's just enough that you can actually imagine doing it. Pick one thing off your list and just start to get a tiny bit of momentum. And it can be something very, very silly. It can just be, I'm going to read 10 emails and just decide which are the 3 I have to respond to. You don't even have to have responded, but just starting to create some momentum will be extremely valuable. You'll find that you start to turn things around. So understanding and recognizing your own particular form of overwhelm, whether it's frenzied or rigid or comparative or deflated, it's really important because all that great advice from your friends about what's helpful or not helpful probably isn't going to work for you if you have a different way of handling things. Okay, so let's switch to the second set of things, which is how can you call on your personality and your interests and your energy as a secondary source of stress management? So there's 4. So one is if you're a very social person, talk it out. So the best strategy in that case is not to try and handle your overwhelm and your stress on your own. It's to phone a friend. And sometimes that friend doesn't even need to say a word. You just need to go, hello. Tell them all that's going on. And even as you talk, knowing that there's someone there who's kind of smiling and supporting you, you'll probably come to your own conclusions about how you can get started again. So talk it out if you're that kind of social person. Then next, if you're more the active person, the person who needs to move and physically work things through, you're a shake it off person. So a shake it off person, do that. Get up, walk around the block, go to your kickboxing class, do something physical, because that gardening is a great, great time to work through overwhelm, because it's amazing how many thoughts are going when you're, mowing the lawn. So you might be a shake it off kind of person. You might be a clean it up kind of person, which is I can't handle any of the tasks until I know all of the tasks, till I can make it into a system, till I can create my beautiful color-coded list of priorities. So you might be someone, if you naturally respond and get energy from things being organized and predictable, it's really helpful for you to kind of stop, map everything out. And the final one, make it count. So if you're somebody who cares a lot about, the why of things and the purpose and all those sorts of things, make it count by talking about the higher order thing. What is this about? What am I accomplishing with this? Or you could make it count by making it more creative or more innovative, those sorts of things. So understanding not only your primary version of stress and overwhelm, whether you're somebody who's frenzied or comparative or deflated, but also understanding your natural sources of energy you can tap into as a secondary approach. Are you someone that needs to talk it out or shake it off or clean it up or make it count? So overwhelm is unfortunately getting more and more common, and we need to not think that there's one strategy. Why does the person next to me's approach not help me? Well, it's because we're very different. So it's important that you have a personalized approach for your own version of overwhelm, but also tapping into your own types of energy. All right, that's it for me. I'm Dr. Leanne Davey, here to help you get the team that you deserve.